I hope is fairly interesting as my dog decides to be annoying. What we're going to found. I'm gonna have to start again because of you. Okay, and welcome back to another video. And today I've got what I hope is going to be an interesting video. I'm actually kind of flying by the seat of my pants here because what I have done is I've gone out and I've purchased a Xbox console, original Xbox console that's already modded and already upgraded with a 500 gig hard drive, or so I'm told. All I know is that it's got a load of games on it, coin ops, and a bunch of emulators and some original Xbox games. Also, it came with a giant box of copied games. So I am going to whiz you through. I'm going to show you a console now so you can see what it is. And I'm going to whiz you through a few of the games. I'm not going to go through everything that's in the box. And then we're going to look and we're both going to, I guess, find out together what actually is on this soft modded console. So I will just clarify, I've had a few Xboxes in the past and I've always done the modding myself. It's a fairly easy thing to do with Rocky 5 soft mod. However, the ones that I've done in the past are all in storage at the moment and I don't really have access to them. And this bargain deal, I've never had a crystal, silver or clear variant of the Xbox, and I actually like that the disk drive on this one is been replaced and it looks quite unique with a normal tray on it. So I went and pulled the trigger. It only cost £70, which is fairly cheap when you think about the time I've saved on modding it and installing a new hard drive and installing all the games and the emulators and coin ops being pretty massive, although I may well strip coin ops off. But anyway, that's what we're going to be looking at today, is what is on this system. And then we're also going to be using this device to capture the gameplay, I guess. Now, the device itself is the Genki Shadowcast. I've just made a review or first look at the Genki Shadowcast. So click on my channel, please hit subscribe and go and have a look at that video if you're interested in a very, very cheap way to capture HD footage. HDMI footage, which leads me to the next point. I've also picked up this HD converter for the original Xbox. So as you may well know, the Xbox was not obviously a HDMI outputting console. So I need this contraption to, it doesn't upscale, it just simply converts the signal to a HD signal, so I can easily capture some footage. However, I do also have a standard red, white and yellow converter box as well, so I may well look into that in a future video just to compare and contrast the output of these devices. So without further ado, as I said, I don't really know what's on this. Let's go and zoom in. I'm gonna have a little play on some games and let's see how things fare. Okay, so I'm going to run you through what's on this soft mod, and then we're going to have a look at a few of the games, see how it runs as well. I have had a little look at this. I had to try and test out the capturing and how to split the audio, so this is a bit of a live recording, but I will probably edit it and chop it down. And as you can see, we haven't got the original dashboard. We've got the Rocky 1.5, I think it is, 1.1.8. Rocky 5 soft mod dashboard here. I don't particularly like it and I will eventually change it, but just to quickly run through a few of the settings so you can sort of see where we are from a display, a video display output settings, I guess. So first off, we got NTSC, so we're going straight into the American or North American output. That means we're running at 60 frames per second and we don't have to worry about the PAL 60. Obviously running in widescreen, and I've enabled 480p, which I'll turn off, and I've enabled 720p. So there is an option to do 1080i, but interlaced graphics don't come across very well, and often there's screen tears and things of that nature. So 720p, but this video will be then recorded in 1080p, although it's not an upscaling thing or anything. So we're going with 720p here, with the refresh rate of 60 FPS. And that's kind of where we stand with that. Obviously, Well, not obviously, but some people won't realise this. But in the UK, in PAL regions, we were locked into. I guess it was it 50 FPS? I think it was 50 on the place on the original Xbox. We had no ability to have 60, unfortunately. So here you can change all the skins and different settings there for the system. Not particularly important. I believe the capacitor for the clock has been taken out because that often leaks or has leaked in the past on these models. So that one's popped out, so the time should restart itself every time. And here we go. We do have a large hard drive in there, so that all looks very good as sold to me. So I'm happy about that. Now there's this feature here, copy to disk, or copy disk to the hard drive. So that's what I'm going to be doing with a lot of those games that you saw in the intro, although not all of the games, because some were pretty pants. So we're going to see, these are all the emulators that are already on the system, and what I will probably do over time is strip some of these out. I don't need all these, I don't particularly want all these. I probably won't use CoinOps, for example. I just want this really for original Xbox games. But we'll have a quick dive into CoinOps just to quickly look at it. So, CoinOps 8 here, it runs very smooth. I don't know if this is the most recent version of CoinOps for the Xbox. I used to run CoinOps 5 on my cabinet that I've put together, and 8 runs a lot better, I can tell you that. The games seem to populate straight away here on the previews. Just a quick view of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs then. Alright, so Cadillacs and Dinosaurs here, one of my favourite arcade games, and as you can see it runs pretty well on the Xbox here. I'm forgetting the buttons actually, whilst I'm not playing with a proper joystick obviously, but this is pretty much what to expect from all arcade games. All emulation on this of the old consoles, so SNES, Mega Drive, Master System, all that stuff. It all runs flawlessly on this system. I'm not gonna go through each one. I might just show a little 5-second clip of some of the games on them. Funnily enough, though, what I will show you is the N64 emulation, because that is a little bit more tricky. And I've run through some of the settings on that in case you're interested on what this system can do. Okay, so here we are with the N64 emulation, and it is a little tricky to work out with this background. You can change the skins, of course, but I just wanted to show you that it is, you kind of need to know, I'm sure there's probably a list online, but you need to know what you're picking here, because when you select a game, for instance Diddy Kong Racing, you can then launch it with a number of different emulators. So this N64 emulator is more of a compilation. Surreal 64 is what it's called, and you have the choice of several different emulators in here, and when you pick an emulator, so I'm going to go with Project 64 here, you then get to pick a bunch of different video plugins, and it's not a case of just picking the highest number or the most recent, because each game kind of performs differently under different settings, so it is a little bit fiddly to mess around with. As we see here, I don't know how well Diddy Kong Racing works. Hopefully it works alright. The intro looks fine. Let's get into the game. So here we are, Diddy Kong Racing, kind of running very well actually with these settings that I've picked. I got kind of lucky on that one. I think this is running a lot better than the original hardware would do, but most of the gameplay I will use N64 on will be from my own collection, just because it's a lot easier to run. Even though it does look a lot smoother here, if you pick a different game, it will possibly run differently. So I think we'll jump straight over to maybe having a look at GoldenEye, because I think that one's probably going to have issues. So hold on. Let's pause, bring up the menu to change games, and we'll jump straight into the next game. So I have actually just noticed that when you click a game, it kind of has a pre-selection up, which changes game to game. So I'm wondering if actually this is running well, and the default settings that it gives you are the best things to run it at. Let's have a look at GoldenEye here, because I have tried this one before recording and it didn't work, but I used a different selection of settings. So let's have a look. Ah, right, so no, this is not working. The game here is loading to a black screen, and now I've gone really weird with it. I've brought up the menu. So now you can hear the audio in the background. It is on the main menu, but it's obviously not working. So let's see if I can change the video settings here. I can't, no. So bear with me and I will try and get this game running in some fashion. Okay, so I think I might have got it. Let's see how this performs with one of the settings. And I did actually have to try a few to get the game to even boot up with a visual. And I think it's actually crashed there before it could get into the main menu. So yeah, there it goes, booted me back to the ROM selection. So it is a bit hit and miss, unfortunately. I'm sure there's probably a list that explains how well each game works and how to get them to work. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to mess around with that too much yet. So what I'll do now is I'll just run through a couple of the other emulators just very, very briefly so you can get just a feel of how they're running, and then we'll look at some of the Xbox games. Okay, so this is the SNES emulator, obviously, a Z SNES box, and seems to run perfectly. We'll just jump straight into a game just to give you a bit of a feeling of how things look. And there are actually a lot of different settings, so you can change sharpness and filters and all sorts of cool stuff on here. But let's just get a game running in a basic mode. Okay, so here we go, Ren and Stimpy, one of my favourite SNES games actually. I'm not a huge SNES fan, but there's about 25 games that I really enjoy that aren't your standard Marios or Mario Karts. One being this game, and as you can see here, it's running pretty good, as well as you would expect for an old console that's emulated. There seems to be actually a little screen tear, which isn't particularly good. Oops. I hadn't seen that before on this system, so what I might do is jump in here and we can go to the video options, and as you can see here, you've got different filtering settings for the hardware, for the software. We're just going to maybe run this onto 0, I guess, if I can find none. Here we go. And then we'll return to game and see if that's helped at all. Not really, no. That's a bit poor. That is a bit poor, because on other consoles I've never come across that issue. So let's whack this up to trilinear, or trilinear. I never know how to say that. And let's just have a quick play. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. And there you go, that's looking better. As I thought, it's just a case of just having a little mess around with some of the settings there till they come right. And here we have a not a good game by any stretch of the imagination, but one I just seem to enjoy for some reason, even though it is pretty difficult. So I'm going to move on to the next emulator here. We'll look at, it's probably for the Genesis, I guess. Okay, so here we have the Genesis here, and I think it's actually not just the Genesis. I believe it can run Genesis. When I say that, I obviously mean Mega Drive, but it can run your Master System as well as your Game Gear games, and it's pretty good. So let's just jump into a game. I'm going to go with Sonic just to test out that blast processing. Okay, that's going to be a bit of an issue as it's only come across into a small screen. So let's have a look into the configuration. Okay, so we managed to figure that out, I think. It's not perfect, but it's vaguely reasonable there, filling up most of the screen. And there you go. It is exactly what you'd expect. It's Mario... it's Sonic 2 running... at 60 frames per second, very smooth, everything's very fluid and pops off. There's no screen tearing that I can make out, and yeah, it's a pretty perfect experience. You can mess around with a bunch of filters on this as well, obviously screen size, positioning, but yeah, everything works as you'd expect. So I'm not going to go through all the emulators. That'll probably do it for the emulators. Let's just jump into a couple of Xbox games that are on the system already, and then maybe one from the disc just to make sure that works. Okay, let's jump in to see the games that are on here. And I didn't want this to be a huge video, but there's a lot to get through here. And I'm not going to look at all these games, but let's have a look at a quick selection of what is actually on here already, as this is kind of brand new to me. Not seeing anything particularly amazing. Silent Hill 2, I think, was pretty good on the original Xbox. Obviously, you've got your Grand Theft Autos, The Suffering, that's pretty cool. Although I don't know about the sequel there, The Suffering Ties That Bind. Never heard about that. Thing is kind of cool or interesting, not a particularly good game. SSX, obviously, that was a lot of fun, especially the third game. Outrun Arcade, I guess that's a port. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, the Xbox game. I think it only came out on Xbox, actually, didn't it? But yeah, so there's some good games there. Let's jump into one and make sure that they actually run. Okay, we are jumping into a game of SSX 3. Obviously, I've had to mute the soundtrack there for copyright reasons, but this should run fairly smoothly. It is looking pretty good to start with, and I can't actually remember the buttons or how the game's supposed to control, but obviously running fairly nicely on this. Oh, there you go. That's one way to ruin things. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how this runs, how this looks through the converter there. Obviously, it's always going to look good on the emulation of old consoles because that's fairly easy to do. But pushing out a HD signal of 720p through the device that's not designed by Microsoft is always going to be a bit hit and miss, but it seems like this one is doing the job sufficiently. So that is SSX 3. I'm not going to look at any more games that are already on the console. I'm a bit disappointed with the selection, to be honest with you. But we've got a lot of games that are burnt to DVDs, so let's try one of those. Okay, so we've jumped into a game that is Sega GT 2002, or the online version. Obviously, we're not playing online, although I'm sure there are servers that you can hook into. In fact, I know there are, but maybe not for this game, certainly for Halo. But yeah, this is obviously running off of a burnt DVD disc and seems to be running fine. Doesn't look quite as clear and as crisp as I seem to remember, but looks alright for what it is. I really wanted to replay this game and go through the career mode, but I will have a little play and we'll see where we get to. Maybe I'll do this. It's probably worth noting that I do have a kind of gameplay, let's play channel that I only do the commentary for, so there'll be a link for that down in the description. So no commentary, just games. And I kind of do a playthrough. Sometimes it's clips, sometimes it's full gameplay, full games. But I've only just kind of started it at the moment, playing Days Gone on PC, and doing some racing game clips. And I've also got some Call of Duty on there. At the moment, all PC games, but I will obviously be running more consoles, retro consoles, clips and gameplays through that. Anyway. Enough about that. Let's look at one more game before I wrap up the video then on a different disc. Alright, well, although I probably need to tweak some of the brightness contrast settings, the games on the DVDs seem to all be running fine, although I've only tested 2. Scooby-Doo here, I think, is actually a really underrated game, and I probably will play this on the channel I mentioned earlier. So if you're interested in seeing what this really looks like, and not just this few seconds clip, go and check that channel out, because this game is pretty cool, especially if you're a Scooby-Doo fan. Even if you're not, it's quite fun anyway as a 3D platformer. So I don't think I ever completed this, but I did play it quite a bit on the PS2, and this actually looks better than what I can remember. It certainly looks a lot more crisp, and the jaggies are certainly looking better in this version of the game. Anyway, it's obviously working. I'm not gonna bore you with a lot of Scooby-Doo gameplay if you're not interested in it, but pretty cool pickup here. The Xbox obviously works well. What I probably will do is strip a lot of the stuff off of the 500 gig hard drive and kind of make an ultimate make an ultimate original Xbox setup with less coin ops, less arcade, and more original Xbox games, and probably a bit of emulation as well. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it's been worth looking and seeing what I've had on this kind of mystery Xbox. And yeah, I guess I'll catch you in the next video.